Okay, I want to start with a visual today. Before we even get into the theology or the history, let's set the scene. We're looking at Surah Al Anam, chapter 6 of the Quran. But the source material we're using, specifically the classical commentary of Ibn Kathir, it describes the actual moment this text arrived in history in a way that sounds, well, loud.
Loud is an understatement. I mean, it was seismic. According to the narration from Ibn Abbas in the source, this entire chapter, which is massive, by the way, was revealed all at once.
All at once.
In a single night. And the description is that it came down accompanied by 70,000 angels.
70,000. That's a very specific and huge number.
70,000, all chanting, all glorifying the Creator at the same time. The narration says the horizon was covered, completely blocking out the sky, and the earth literally shook from the weight of it.
Wow. That sets a completely different tone than what we're used to, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Usually when we look at these texts, we see verses coming down piecemeal. A few lines here to solve a legal dispute or a few lines there to address a battle. This feels heavier.
Exactly. This isn't a legal briefing. It's not a set of municipal rules for a new city. This is the Makkan period. It's raw foundational theology. It's dealing with the big three, you know? Who is God? What is the nature of reality? And what happens to the human soul?
So our mission today is to wade through the first 70 or so verses of this chapter. And just to be clear, we're looking at this strictly as a historical and theological document, analyzing the arguments exactly as Ibn Kathir lays them out. We want to see how the text itself constructs its logic.
Right. We're exploring the internal logic of the text. And what I love is that the logic starts immediately. I mean, right away. It opens with creation, but then it zooms in on a linguistic distinction in verse 6.1 that is really easy to miss in English.
Okay.
But the commentary spends a lot of time on it. He made the darknesses and the light.
Darknesses.
Plural. Yes. Zulimat, it's plural. But when it mentions light and nur, it's singular.
So why the grammar shift? Is that just, poetic license?
No, Ibn Kathir points out that this is a deliberate structural argument. The idea is that error, or being astray, isn't one single thing. It's chaotic.
Right.
You can go too far left, too far right. You can be distracted by greed, by ego, by false ideologies. The paths to getting lost are, well, they're infinite. That's why it's plural darknesses.
But the truth?
The truth is singular. The path is described as a straight line, the shortest distance between 2 points. The theology here argues there aren't 5 versions of the ultimate truth. There's just the one light.
That's a powerful mental model. It suggests that clarity is rare and focused, while confusion is abundant and scattered. And speaking of confusion, the text moves from this huge cosmic scale straight to dirt, to clay.
Verse 6.2, he created you from clay. It reminds the listener of their humble origins immediately, but then right after that, it introduces a concept of time that I think is one of the most intellectually stimulating parts of this section. It mentions 2 different terms.
I had to read this part twice to make sure I got the distinction. The text says there's a stated term, or Allah Musama, and then a term determined with him. To a layperson, that sounds like the same thing said twice.
Right.
What's the difference, according to the source?
It's the difference between your clock and the universe's clock.
Ah, okay.
The source explains that the stated term is your personal biography. You're born, you live for X number of years, you die. That is your stated term. It's finite. It's individual.
Okay, so that's my life expectancy, the actuary table.
Right. But the second term, the one with him, that's the lifespan of the entire construct. It's the time from the beginning of creation until the day of resurrection. And the commentary really emphasizes that while you might be able to guess a human lifespan, that second term, the end of the world, that's exclusive, encrypted divine knowledge.
It really puts the human ego in check. My term is just a tiny blip inside this massive hidden term of the universe.
And that leads directly to the attribute the text emphasizes next, the all-knowing. Verse 6.3 says, he knows what you conceal and what you reveal.
The ultimate surveillance state.
But an internal one. It's not just watching your movements, it's watching your intentions. And this right here sets the stage for the main conflict of the surah. You have this all-knowing creator, and then you have the skeptics in Makkah who are saying,
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it. Exactly.
And this is where the text gets into the psychology of denial. And honestly, reading the skeptics' arguments, they sound pretty modern.
They really do.
They're not debating abstract philosophy. They're demanding empirical proof.
They're empiricists in a way. They're saying to the prophet, you say you have a message from the sky, fine, show us. And they had very specific demands. They wanted a scroll, a literal paper book to fall from the sky so they could touch it,
Yeah.
or they wanted an angel to land right in front of them and, vouch for the message.
If this is real, show me the angel. I mean, it's not an unreasonable request if you're being asked to change your whole life.
You think so?
But the text just shuts this down. And I want to understand the logic of why. Why not just send the book? Why not just send the angel?
So the text deconstructs this in two ways. First, with the book, the argument is essentially about confirmation bias.
Okay.
The source says that even if a book physically fell from the sky and they touched it with their own hands, the skeptics wouldn't say, "We believe." They'd say, "This is clearly magic."
So the problem isn't a lack of data, it's the filter they're processing the data through.
Precisely. If you are committed to the conclusion that this is impossible, any evidence to the contrary is just going to be reinterpreted as a trick. The source argues their skepticism is a choice, not a lack of information.
Okay, but what about the angel? That seems a bit harder to write off as a magic trick. If a glowing being lands in the city square, that's compelling.
This is the catch-22 of the angelic argument. Ibn Kathir explains that if an angel were to come down to speak to humans, it couldn't appear in its raw celestial form. It would be too much for human senses, like staring into a supernova.
So he couldn't handle the bandwidth.
Exactly. So for the interaction to even work, the angel would have to take the form of a man. But if the angel looks like a man, talks like a man, and dresses like a man,
Wait.
the skeptics would just say, well, this is just a guy. Why should we listen to him?
Exactly. So it would lead to the exact same confusion they started with.
Right.
But there's a second, darker reason why the angel doesn't come. And this is a recurring theme in the Quran. The text says that if an angel were to appear in its true form, the matter would be judged at once.
What does that mean? Judged at once.
It means the test is over. Faith, by definition, requires believing in the unseen. If the unseen becomes seen, if the curtain is pulled back and the angel is standing right there, you don't have faith anymore. You have certainty. And at that point, the opportunity for repentance closes. It's immediate judgment.
So the silence or the lack of these huge overt miracles is framed as a mercy. It's buying time.
It's a grace period. It's allowing people the space to think and choose before the final answer is revealed. Speaking of choosing, I want to get to this story about the tribal leaders.
Yeah.
Because the text implies that their skepticism wasn't really about logic or angels at all.
No.
It was about politics, rivalry.
This is one of the most revealing narratives in the source material. It involves the heavy hitters of the opposition, Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, and Al-Aqnas. These were the men publicly leading the campaign against the prophet.
Calling him a liar, a magician, a madman.
Publicly, yes. But the report says that secretly, under the cover of night, each one of them would sneak out of their houses and hide near the prophet's home to listen to him recite the Quran.
Wait, they were sneaking out to listen to the very thing they were attacking.
Yes, they were captivated by it. They knew the language was unlike anything they had ever heard. And the funny part is they didn't know the others were doing it. It's like a farce.
That's amazing.
They listened all night, completely entranced. Then, as dawn broke, they'd sneak home to avoid being seen, and they'd bump into each other on the path.
That is incredibly awkward. What are you doing here?
Exactly. They'd blame each other. Don't do this again. If the young people or the weak-minded see us listening, it will destroy our credibility.
But they went back.
3 nights in a row. They couldn't help themselves. And finally, after the 3rd night, Al-Aqnas corners Abu Jahl, the fiercest enemy, and he asks him for the truth. He says, "What is your honest opinion about what you heard?"
What did he say? Did he admit it was magic?
No, he was brutally honest. He said, "Look, us and the tribe of Bani Abd-Manaf, the prophet's clan, we have always been rivals. They fed the poor, we fed the poor. They gave charity, we gave charity. We were neck and neck like 2 racehorses fighting for honor."
So it was status competition.
Exactly. But then Abu Jahl says, now they say, we have a prophet who receives revelation from the heavens. How can we compete with that?
He couldn't match the card.
He couldn't.
Right.
So he concludes, by Allah, we will never believe in him, and we will never believe him.
That just changes the whole context of the darkness we talked about. He wasn't in the dark because he couldn't find the switch. He was in the dark because he refused to turn it on. He preferred the darkness of tribal status over the singular light of truth.
It was a calculated choice. And the text contrasts this human arrogance with the rest of the natural world. This brings us to verse 6.38, which has a fascinating description of animals.
The Ummah.
Yes. The verse says, "There is not a moving creature on earth, nor a bird flying with its wings, but they are communities like you."
That word communities carries a lot of weight. It's not just biology. It implies social structure, communication, maybe even a kind of culture.
And accountability. The commentary brings in a narration here from Abu Huraira that is quite striking. It says that on the day of judgment, the resolution of justice will be so high that God will settle scores between animals.
And scores between animals.
Specifically, the source says that if a horned sheep butted an unhorned sheep unjustly in this life, retribution will be taken on that day.
That is vivid and kind of terrifying. It implies that the moral fabric of the universe is incredibly tight. It's not just about empires and kings. It's about a sheep in a field.
It establishes that injustice is an anomaly that will be corrected no matter how small. Nothing slips through the cracks. And this attention to detail transitions into the concept of the unseen, or kaib, in verse 6.59. This is where we get the imagery of the falling leaf.
Not a leaf falls, but that he knows it.
Just think about the data processing required for that statement. Every leaf in every forest, every seed in the darkness of the soil, every single grain wet or dry. The text says it is all written in a clear record.
It's such a contrast to the Abu Jahl story. He thought he could hide in the dark and listen secretly. This verse is saying, there is no dark, there's no secret. The falling leaf is tracked. Your midnight walk is tracked.
It creates a sense of total encirclement. You are surrounded by knowledge. And Ibn Kathir details the 5 keys of the unseen here. He says only God knows. The coming of the hour, the rain, what is in the wombs, what a person will earn tomorrow, and where a person will die.
That last one, where a person will die, is the perfect segue to the next section. Because the text gets very visceral about the moment of death. And it makes a really interesting link between sleep and death.
It does. Verse 6.60 calls sleep a taking of the soul.
A minor death.
Right. The idea is that your consciousness is withdrawn, held, and then returned to you to finish your stated term. It's like a daily rehearsal. But then the text shifts to the major death. And I have to warn you, the imagery in the tafsir here is, it's not for the faint of heart.
This is the scene with the angel of death.
Yes. Verse 6.61 says, our messengers take him. The commentary describes the angel of death and his assistants. And it's not a peaceful fading away for everyone. For the wicked soul, it's described as a physical extraction like pulling wet wool through a thorny branch.
And there's a conversation that happens.
A dialogue. The source describes the soul leaving the body. If it's a righteous soul, the angels say, O pure soul from a pure body. It's said to smell like the finest musk. The gates of heaven open, and the angels welcome it by name. Welcome so-and-so, son of so-and-so. It's a homecoming.
But the alternative?
The alternative is haunting. For the wicked soul, the one that chose the darknesses, the angels say, get out, O wicked soul, from a wicked body. It smells like rotting carrion. The gates of heaven are locked. It's rejected by the celestial realm and just thrown back down.
And then the source mentions something about burdens, this idea that your deeds aren't just abstract concepts, they have physical weight.
This is one of the most terrifying visualizations in the text. Ibn Kathir mentions that on the day of judgment, the unjust person will actually carry their sins. But not in a backpack. The sins are personified.
Personified how?
They appear as a man with an ugly face and a foul smell who literally rides on the sinner's back. The sinner has to carry this person, and the sinner asks, who are you? And the figure replies, I am your malicious deeds.
So you literally carry the weight of your own actions. You can't put them down.
You built the rider, and now you have to carry him. It brings a frightening literalism to the phrase, carrying your baggage.
I want to pivot to the psychology of the person before they die. Because the text points out a very interesting contradiction in how humans handle crisis versus comfort.
The ship at sea analogy.
Right, verse 6.63.
It describes people sailing. When the storm hits, the darkness of land and sea, what happens to their theology? It clarifies instantly. They forget the idols. They forget the status games. They don't call on Allat or Uzza or their money. They call strictly and sincerely on the one creator to save them.
It's the foxhole atheist argument. When the waves are crashing, everyone suddenly knows who's actually in charge.
The fitra, that natural instinct, kicks in. But the tragedy, according to the text, is the amnesia. As soon as they hit dry land, as soon as the danger passes, they revert. They go right back to shirk associating partners with God.
They start saying the captain saved us, or the wind changed, or my luck held out.
Yes, they delete the spiritual experience to preserve their old worldview. It's like they gaslight themselves.
Wow.
And this leads to a very counterintuitive concept of punishment in verse 6.44. We usually think punishment means, bad things happening.
Lightning bolts, plagues, floods, the standard disaster movie stuff.
Right. But the text describes a punishment called istidraj. It means gradual seizing. The verse says that when they forgot the warnings, God didn't strike them down. Instead, he opened to them the gates of every pleasant thing.
Wait, so the punishment was success.
The punishment was unchecked success, wealth, health, victory. They got everything they wanted. And they became overjoyed, self-satisfied, thinking they were validated. They thought, we must be right. Look at how well we're doing. And that is the moment the trap sprung.
It's the ultimate setup.
The text says, we seized them suddenly, and they were plunged into despair.
That is psychologically devastating. It suggests that comfort can be a more dangerous test than pain, because pain makes you wake up, like on the ship, but comfort can make you go to sleep.
Comfort creates the illusion of immunity. And speaking of destruction, we have to touch on verse 6.65. It lists 3 directions that torment can come from.
From above and from below.
Ibn Kathir interprets from above as lightning or stones cosmic events. From below is earthquakes or sinkholes. But then there's a third category, which the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, found the most distressing.
Confusion and party strife.
Yes, to make you taste the violence of one another. Sectarianism, civil war, internal conflict.
And the source mentions a specific prayer of the Prophet here, doesn't it? This was a really heavy moment in the text for me.
It is. The narration says the Prophet asked his Lord for 3 things to protect his community. First, he asked that they not be destroyed by a general drowning, like the people of Noah, and the source says this was granted.
Okay.
And second, he asked that they not be destroyed by a general famine. This was also granted.
And the third request.
He asked that they not be made to taste the violence of one another, that they be protected from internal strife. And the response was, refused.
Refused.
Not granted.
That is profound. It implies that while God might hold back the ocean or the rain, the political and social choices of the community, whether they kill each other or live in peace, that's on them. That responsibility wasn't lifted.
It places the burden of unity squarely on human shoulders. The confusion isn't a natural disaster, it's a man-made one. It relates back to the idea that the darknesses are plural. There's so many ways to be divided, but only one way to be united.
So we've covered the cosmos, the psychology of skeptics, the justice of animals, the terror of death, and the trap of success. As we wrap up this deep dive, is there any, practical advice in the source? If you're living in a society like Makka, surrounded by people mocking this message, what do you do?
Verse 6.68 gives a very specific social directive. It talks about false conversation. The instruction is, when you see people engaging in mockery of the verses, disengage.
Just walk away.
The text says, turn away from them until they enter into another topic. It's a boundary. You don't have to flip the table, you don't have to scream at them, but you cannot sit there and just nod along. If the conversation turns to mockery, you leave.
And if you stay?
If you sit with them, you're effectively validating the mockery, you become one of them. The text says if you forget because we are human, you stand up as soon as you remember. It's about protecting your own spiritual hygiene.
It circles back to that idea of singular light. You can't hang out in the darknesses and expect to see clearly. You have to curate your environment.
Exactly.
There is one final word I want to leave our listeners with. It appears in verse 6.70. The source spends some time unpacking it. The word is tubsol.
Tubsol. It's a heavy word.
Ibn Kathir offers a few meanings for it. Exposed, destruction, or restrained.
The core image is that the soul is tubsol. It is held hostage by its own earnings.
Held hostage by its deeds.
We usually think of earnings as money we use to buy freedom. But this text suggests we're earning our own chains. The source says that on that day, the soul is restrained by what it did. And the terrifying part is the lack of a bailout. The verse says that even if that soul offered every ransom meaning, if it possessed the entire earth filled with gold and offered it up, it would not be accepted.
You can't buy your way out. You can only work your way out, and the time for work is now.
That's the message. You are building your own determined term every single day. You're either forging chains or keys.
That's a sobering place to land, but I think it captures the urgency of the text. Ibn Kathir's commentary on Surah Al Anam isn't just about ancient history. It's a mirror for human psychology and responsibility.
It certainly is.
Thank you for guiding us through the layers of this source.
My pleasure.
And to you listening, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time, watch out for the darknesses and keep looking for the light.